I'll tell you the love for rap, where did it start? I have learned percussion instrument, learned it from class 7th until class 12th. Tabla, drums, mridang, you name those percussion instruments, they're about one thing, they're about beat. And when in 90s, I heard this gentleman called Baba Sehgal for the first time. Rap is about poetry along with the beats. I wish I would have done that because what you heard is without practice.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, practice makes you better and better and better.
Yeah.
Then I could have at least pursued a career in something that I truly, truly love, which is rapping. A man is silent, then it is automatically believed everything is okay.
So the fear of being judged, the fear of being not heard, the pressure of being a breadwinner of the family, it's there too much for the men, I feel.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The only people that are loved unconditionally are women, children, and dogs.
Yeah.
Men are loved with a condition that they are going to be the provider. The moment they stop providing, they are stopped being loved. That's the way society thinks. Men are very much a part of that same society.
Hello everyone. Welcome to my podcast. It's a new venture launched by me, which is very close to my heart, Noble by Richa. And here we do have our guest, Sumit Nautiyal. And we are going to talk a lot of interesting topics with him today. So welcome to the show, Sumit.
Richa, thank you for having me over. It's a great honor to be here. But before that, let me tell you, congratulations on starting your own venture. I know you've been talking about this for a while, so it's truly an honor to be the part of your show and be the first guest coming and talking to you. Thank you for having me.
Sure, thank you. And see, the idea of this show is to create awareness and talk all the positive aspects about the daily life topics which we are not discussing too much.
Yep.
So we will be focusing more on creating awareness and talking about the minute details,
Yeah.
which will, of course, impact our current generation and the coming generation as well. Yeah. So before that, I would love to know about your journey till here.
Where am I today?
Yes, your entire journey about your personal life and professional as well.
Sure. So it's been a long journey. Let me go all the way back. I was born in Dehradun. I'm from Uttarakhand. But I never kind of lived there. I was just born there. And then my father was moving around, and I grew up primarily in Calcutta, where I finished my junior school, my college. My background is from the army. But I have not seen it personally. So my father is an ex-serviceman. But all of the people that we used to hang around with, all of my friends, family members, my father's friends, primarily they were all from the army background. But my father was in corporate. So I've kind of seen the best of both. And my father used to work for this organization called ICI. I don't know if you've heard of Dulux Paints. They still market the paints today. It's a very famous brand of this paint that you put in your houses, on your walls and things like that. So he was a personal manager in that company, and in those days, administration and HR used to be rolling up under one department, and that was called the administration department. So he was the administration manager that time. And so I did my school from Calcutta, I did my college from Calcutta, and then after college I went to US. I went to US in 99. I was only 20 years old that time.
Okay.
And I did my further studies there, and of course I lived in US for about 11 years, 12 years. Very few people know that the very first job that I did was that of a janitor.
Okay.
Right. So what that means is I was given a broom and a mop, and I used to clean the bathrooms in the universities.
Okay.
Mop the bathroom floors and clean the sinks and do all of that stuff. Of course, we had the gear, the gloves, and all of the safety equipment, if I may say so. But that was my first job, and the reason that was my first job is because you need to have a work permit to work in US. So initially I was a student, and the only job that I could do at that point in time was on-campus job. And that was the on-campus job that I had. I flipped burgers. I've worked in Pizza Hut with a cap and the apron on, making pizzas and
Okay.
taking orders from people. And I've even worked for a company called Frigidaire. Uh, it was one of the premier manufacturers of refrigeration and refrigerators and things like that. So I was on the assembly line there, working a night shift.
Okay.
So these refrigerators used to come on the assembly line like this, and I used to be standing out there, putting the compressor on the refrigerator. I used to work from what I think 10 p.m. until 7 a.m., something like that. I incidentally got fired from every one of those jobs. So I got fired from the janitor's job, I got fired from the Burger King, from the Pizza Hut, from the refrigeration job, because the reality is, while growing up, I was never exposed to that kind of work, right? So I was not made to do that work,
Yeah.
right? So I couldn't last long. And of course, my first job that I had was that of then after that, in the corporate world, in the office setup, was that of a bill collector. So I used to call people up on third party and tell them, hey, you've not paid your bill. When are you going to pay your bill? And so I've done all that. In that organization, then I continued for about 10 years. So I did multitude of roles in that organization. In 6 months, I got promoted as a supervisor. So I was managing the team. I became the operations manager. I ran the operations for that team. I even did dialer management for them, because all these calls that were happening, they were using what they call a via dialer.
Okay.
So I was managing the workflow within that dialer. I was also the communications manager at one point in time. I was doing internal communications, external communications. And then finally, before I decided to move back to India, is when I was doing bankruptcy operations for them. So they were into this business of buying bankrupt paper, and they would buy it for 25 cents, 10 cents on a dollar. And when that individual would file for bankruptcy, they would collect 25 cents on a dollar. So I grow that business to about $50 million,
Oh, wow. Okay.
working for that organization. Then ultimately I decided I'm going to come back. And there's a story for that as well. So when I went to US in 1999, this was pre-Skype, pre-Teams and WhatsApps and whatnot, right? So video calling was not prevalent at that point in time. So the only mode of communication with my parents was telephone. And because I was working and making my own money, and I'm from a middle class family, so buying a ticket and coming back to India to meet with the family for a 2 week vacation and paying two and a half, $3,000, $4,000 for a ticket, air ticket, to and fro, that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So instead, my mother used to come. My mother used to visit, and she used to stay with me 3 months, 4 months, 6 months.
Okay.
But my father never came. My father was still in service that time, so he never came. And in 2008 is when my father retired. That's the first time my mom and dad came to meet me in US. So you can imagine, from 1999 to 2008, I've never seen my old man.
Oh,
I've only talked to him on the
that's a
phone, things like
long,
that. Yeah, a long time.
time actually.
And when I saw him come out of the airport, after collecting his luggage and everything, it was a shock, because you see somebody after 10 years.
Yeah, it's a
and-
long time.
And you have this mental picture of the person in your head, and I see a man coming out with white hair, a lot of hair lost and things
Yeah.
like that. It's like a lot of, then you realize a lot of time has passed, because that kind of puts perspective,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's when I decided, okay, I think this is enough. I need to come back. By then, my brother was also in US, so we are
Okay.
only two siblings. My brother was also in the US, and I said, I'm going to be back. And 2009, which is the following year, in November of 2009, I was back in India. And when I came to India, then I started working again I did bankruptcy work in India. I worked for another organization called Alsec Technologies. I set up their entire third-party collection business. And so you can see my entire journey was, as I started the corporate world, it was primarily into financial services and products, credit card originations and such, and then ultimately bankruptcy. And then within Allsec also, I set up a third-party collection business for them. In 2015, I got the opportunity to join, And by the way, there's a story to that as well, because when I was trying to come back in 2009, 2008, I kept applying for. I wanted to get to the organization really bad, and there was that time. Didn't happen. Ultimately, 2015, I got into, and I changed my streams at that time. So I moved from finance to HR, and I joined as a talent acquisition manager. Small setup, 100 people at that time.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. So it's been now, it's going to be 10 years. I'll complete 10 years this year, 2015 to 2025.
Yes.
And the journey has been fantastic. I love the people that I work with. I love the organization that I work with. I love my clients, and I love the processes working for people. HR is just, I found my calling now. So this is, I think, where I'm going to retire from.
Okay.
There is one thing, there's one thing that always resonated with me, but I could give the words to that feeling after I joined the current organization. And it's, I don't know if you've heard this before. Growth and comfort don't coexist. This is not my words. This is the words of our ex-CEO. And that kind of really hit me like a ton of bricks that, yeah, that makes sense. Either you can decide to be comfortable,
Yeah.
or you can decide to grow. You can't have both.
Yeah. Right.
If you are comfortable, you're not going to grow. In order to grow, you got to do uncomfortable things that you have never done before. That is when you learn, right?
Right.
So when you say I've made a lot of sacrifices, I don't look at them as sacrifices. I look at them as stepping stones or stepping blocks in my own career journey that has helped me get to where I am at today. Because had I not done all of those things, I would not be sitting here in front of you and talking to you today.
Correct, yeah.
So everything that you do in life kind of leads up to that. And the reality of life is that nothing comes easy. You have to work. You have to really work hard. Look at any individual. I'm not talking about myself, but you look at anybody that's like ultra successful in life, right? Any field that you want to take. When you go back into their history of what they have done to get there, you will realize that they have also kind of made a lot of sacrifices,
right.
done a lot of hard things, learned along the way, and then got to where they are at today. So failure is you fail more than you succeed.
Yeah.
But if you give up on that and say, hey, no, I just want to be comfortable, I can't deal with this anymore, but that's the end of the road for you,
Correct.
if I may say so.
Yeah.
You don't go beyond that then.
Yeah. Now we have this complaint always that we are not able to balance our, work and our hobbies, work-life balance. So
Yeah.
give us ideas. How do you do it?
Yeah. Well, work-life balance is one of those things that everybody talks about, but very few people have mastered it. For me, it is about setting priorities, right? I believe you control your work life, not somebody else does. It's about setting your priorities straight, being intentional about what is it that recharges you, gets you off work, is interesting to you, makes you happy, makes you feel alive, and things like that, right? You really can't keep it on the back burner. So the way I do it is, I set boundaries. This is the time that I'll be working, and this is the time that I've set aside for my hobbies, and I'm as serious about my hobbies as I am about my work. So, for example, one of the things that I really enjoy doing is singing, and
Okay.
A.R. Rahman is not calling me tomorrow,
Okay.
but it's something that kind of helps me keep my creative side alive, right? Singing is something that kind of really helps me blow off some steam. It helps me kind of re-energize, forget about some of the stress that is out there, right? But how do I do it? Well, I'm not going to say I block my calendar and such, but I set the time aside that this is the time that I'm not going to be doing anything else, but I'll be singing. So you can see me on apps like Star Maker where I'm Gabbar and I'm singing
Yes.
songs and things like that,
Yeah.
right? So the idea really is that, right? The idea really is, and again, the other thing that you need to keep in mind is in today's world, technology is so pervasive in our lives and it's everywhere it's kind of hard to shut down yourself, right? So you have to be making a conscious decision, and I do that, that after a certain time, I am not going to respond to emails. I'm not going to be taking phone calls relative to work. Matter of fact, I turn my phone to, the focus mode is changed to kind of away, busy, sleeping,
Okay.
whatever it might be. I might be very well awake and I might be singing, or I might be doing my second hobby, which is cooking. I love cooking.
Oh, okay.
Right, I love cooking. Maybe perhaps not as good as you,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I anything that is smoky and that smells like forest fire, I'm all in. But yeah, that's how you do it. You got to be intentional. You got to be making sure that you're setting time aside, making time for things that re-energizes you, that kind of keeps you happy, makes you feel alive. And you have to approach your hobbies with the same passion and same seriousness that you would be approaching your work.
Okay.
It's like that. So my advice to the newcomers that are coming in the corporate world and to the younger generation is that, look, don't wait for it to happen. If you're waiting for the organization to create work life balance for you, then you are looking at it in a wrong way. You have to be creating your own work life balance. Look at yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you work, you do a lot of busy things, but you also find time to do things that you love, right? We
Yes.
were talking about it earlier in terms of the two ventures that you've been working on, your cooking and all of this stuff. You find time for it.
Right.
And sometimes it can be hectic, but at the end of the day, you told me you enjoy doing it, right?
Yes. It's giving the utmost happiness.
It does, right? So my advice is do what makes you happy. I enjoy my job. I'm not saying my job doesn't make me happy. I really love my job. I enjoy working with the people that I work with. And I talked about my clients and everybody, right? But that's work. At the end of the day, that I'm not doing for myself. That I'm doing for somebody else. So there's got to be something that I'm doing for myself as
Yeah.
well. And those are the things. So singing is I love to sing. Matter of fact, I rap quite a bit. I sing all genres of music from English to Hindi to Punjabi to, and I'm sure you've heard some of that stuff.
Yes, I have
And I
heard.
go and I
Yes.
post it on
Yes.
Instagram as well, right? I love cooking, so Saturdays, Sundays is when I find time. I would go and cook for my family. And the third thing that I really enjoy doing is watching these gritty, dark crime dramas on
Oh,
Netflix and
okay.
Amazon Prime. The darker it is, the better it is. And it's like it's nothing better than coming home from a hard day at work and just looking at a murder mystery and say, yeah, yeah, yes, I knew that was the murderer. I knew it. So it's like,
Okay.
so those are the things that you got to do that kind of keeps you alive, keeps you happy. How do I do it? By being intentional, being conscious about it, setting boundaries. This is work time, this is play time, and let that not kind of cross over. And I also kind of extend that courtesy to my teams. I tell my teams that, hey, look, set those boundaries. After a certain time, switch off your phones, switch off your laptops. Work is not gonna go anywhere. Yeah, there may be urgent things that may come up, but those are exceptions. They don't happen every day. And if that is happening every day in your life where something urgent is coming up, then you're doing it wrong. Then you
Okay.
need to kind of really evaluate in terms of. So it's not about hobbies and work. It's not about time management. So let me also clarify that.
Okay.
In my opinion, it's about energy management, right? One, if you keep working, all they say, what is that proverb? They say,
All
all
work, no
well, no,
play.
yeah, makes
Yeah.
Jack a dull boy, right?
Yeah, right.
I think that's true. You gotta find things in life that kind of makes you happy.
Yeah.
So be conscious, be intentional, set boundaries, approach your hobbies with the same seriousness that you approach your work with, and and do what you enjoy doing. The easiest way of doing it is you have 24 hours in a day. Well, set aside 7 hours that you are sleeping.
Yeah.
Set aside the 8 to 9 hours that you are working with. That still leaves you with plenty of time. So, what am I saying? If you've set aside 9 hours for work, make sure that does not spill over the rest of your time that you have. Break your day out. Say, okay, 7 hours. This is the time that I'm gonna go to bed. Try to go to bed early, and I don't do that myself. I'm a late night guy, right? So I break. But generally, it works for a lot of people. If you go to bed early, you wake up early, you'll find that time that you're talking about to go to gym, or you
Right.
could go to gym after work. But the point is, you look at your entire schedule, 24 hours, you set aside 7 hours that you really need to sleep, you set aside 9 hours that you need to work. What is that? 18, 16 hours right there. That still leaves you plenty of time
Lots
that you
of
can kind
time,
of, right?
right?
Then 24 minus 16 is what? Close to 8 hours that you have right now that you can still kind of
Balance it
utilize
out,
in doing whatever
utilize.
you need to do, whether that is workout, whether that is pursuing your hobby, whether that is, so
Extra education or certifications, any sort
anything.
of thing, positive thing, which will benefit
Right,
to you, yeah.
right.
So it's like, you mean to say that we have time, it's just that we are not utilizing it properly?
We are not, I would say that we are not doing it intentionally,
No,
not
yeah.
properly. You
Yeah.
have to be, like I said, you have to be intentional, you have to be conscious,
Yeah.
and you have to set boundaries. So, well, some people can say you're not utilizing it properly, but I would still kind of lean on saying you're not being intentional. You have
Okay.
to be very, very particular about this is my working hours. I'm not going to work outside of this hours. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Exceptions are there,
Yeah.
may happen, but that cannot happen. Exception doesn't mean every single day you're working 12 hours, 13 hours, 14 hours a day. If that is happening, then there is something fundamentally wrong
Yeah.
that needs to be
Yeah.
corrected over there. Be intentional,
Yeah.
be conscious, set boundaries.
Okay.
This is not rocket science, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
So there is a viewpoint about the leaders, when you grow to a certain level, people have a viewpoint that no, leaders are not that presentable in the sense, in fashion sense, they are quite serious people, always in
Really?
formals, yeah. So
Is that what I
that's,
look like?
no, that's what, so you have set up a different bar, so Gen Zs and the coming generation are not able to mingle with the leaders because of the thought process and the way they are dressed, the way they are presenting. So what are your point of views in that?
So I'll tell you what, this is what I believe in. Being presentable, I think let's break a myth about that first. It doesn't mean that you're straight out of a fashion magazine and you're walking like a model and, wearing Armani and Gucci and whatnot, right? But I think it's about two, three things, right? Being presentable is when you interact with an individual, those are the first things. First thing is your eyes when you look at an individual, right? The second thing is your ear, right? And the third, and those two things, your eyes and your ear, basically form a perception about an individual.
Okay.
So there are two things. One is looking sharp, and looking sharp doesn't really mean uh, wearing high end and fashion and kind of jewelry and things like that. It's just being neat and tidy is more than enough, in my opinion, right? The second thing is clarity in thought. When you are talking, are you clear in articulating and the other person understanding what you are trying to tell them? And the third thing is really kind of it's about body language. So those are the three things that kind of make it together. Now take a step back. Take a step back from that. Before anything, before you can be presentable, I think first thing you need to do is focus on yourself. So it's all about your body, mind, and spirit. If those things are intact, then you get to the next level, which is about being presentable, right? I mean, are you taking care of your health? Are you kind of taking care of your mind? Are you reading, learning, things like that? And spirituality doesn't necessarily mean that you're in front of a temple worshipping. Spirituality really means is, uh, are you kind of looking at doing things that kind of really make you happy? That's the way I kind of look at it. So as long as those three things are there, body, mind, spirit, they are in sync, is when you kind of get to the next part of it, being presentable. And when on presentable again, there are three things: is looking nice, looking sharp, speaking clearly, having that clarity of thought when you're talking, and the third thing is about your body posture. So you break that down, right? You break that down. Looking sharp. What does that mean? It means that when you're coming to, let's talk about corporate world. Let's talk about office.
Okay.
When you're going to office, are you taking care of yourself? Are you wearing a neatly ironed clothes, right?
Yeah.
Are you wearing a watch, for example? Are you wearing good shoes? Is your hair tidy? Do you take care of your skin care, right? I
Yeah.
mean, people generally take care. Are you well groomed? Do you make sure that you trim your beard, cut your hair, things of that nature? Or is it that you're rolling out of the bed, right? And just kind of, and then you get to the office all shabby and
The
all that.
last
And
minute rush of the
the last
office.
minute, yeah, exactly. So take time to do that, because that's the very first thing that people will notice about you even before they talk to you is how do you look. And you form perception of an individual on the way that he looks, the way or she. And when I say looks, I don't mean physical beauty. I mean how they carry themselves,
Okay.
right? How, what are they wearing? I mean, how are they carrying themselves like that? The second thing really is talk, your sound, right? I have this naturally bold voice, right? So that can work in my favor or against my favor. It's like when I go into the office and I say good morning to people, sometimes they think that I'm scolding them,
Yeah.
right? So I have to modulate my voice. I have to make sure that I'm like softer in talking to them. I have a smile on my face, right? And you talk in a manner that is pleasing, because that's the second thing that an individual will see.
Right.
The third thing is your body posture, right? When you're talking to somebody, are you looking into their eyes and you're talking, right? Um, uh, are you leaning closer to them? How's your body? Is it open body language? Or are you kind of folding your hands and kind of listening to them? All of these things, you don't really have to be a body language specialist to be able to pick these things up. These a closed body language will naturally make the individual on the other side a little bit
Yeah.
conscious and things like that, right? Um, Cell phones. When you're in meetings, when you're talking to somebody, turn off your cell phone, put it upside down. Be there in the moment
Yeah.
and talking
Right.
to them. This is also a part of being presentable. So you got looks, you got your sound, you got your body language. The third thing is, I think, smelling good. Yeah, I practice that, right? You need to smell good. You can't be kind of smelling like garbage and trash when you come close, because there is a physical boundary, right? It's like when you're two individuals are talking this distance, you can kind of still smell,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
what that other person, and that kind of that turns off your mind completely. You don't listen to what that individual is talking about. So those are the four things that I would, and the last thing that I will talk about is, I guess, confidence. Have the confidence to to sh- for whatever topic that you're talking about, present that confidently. Be confident, so that the other person knows that, yeah, okay, this guy knows, or this person knows what they are talking about. So those are the five things,
Okay.
in my opinion, that I personally follow. uh, it's not about fashion. It's about being neat and tidy.
Yeah.
It's about making sure that you understand that your voice is powerful, and you, if it is too bold, you modulate it. For me, I mean, I practice to do that. The third thing is, of course, body language. The fourth thing is making sure you're smelling nice. That kind of ties back into your neat looking thing as well. You can argue. And the last thing, which is very important also, is having the confidence and the courage to kind of go out there, not be like feeble, or kind of afraid of putting your ideas out there. And if you don't know, then listen. Then listen to the other individual. Listen to their perception. So this is what I would say
Right.
being
Okay.
presentable is all about. So there are two ways of looking at it. What you've just described about me, my tattoos, my rap, my bracelet. See, it is very intrinsic to who I am. That is me as a person,
Yeah.
right? It would be very unfair of me to expect every individual to act, behave, talk, look like, smell like Sumit Natyal.
Yeah.
That's an unreasonable expectation, because that gives us our individuality, right? That makes me who I am. That makes me Sumit. So when you talk about connection with the new generations, the Gen Zs as they call them, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's about it. It's got more to do. So if what I talked about right now, right? You don't have to dress up like a Gen Z to connect with a Gen Z. If this was not my style, if I was not wearing accessories and I didn't have tattoos, and I would still be wearing the suit and whatnot, I still am confident that I will be able to connect with them, because it's about when you connect with an individual, it's about listening to them. See, being presentable is a different thing than emulating or looking like somebody else. That's my personal
Yeah.
opinion.
Okay.
So to each his own is what I will say. You have to look at a leader in terms of, that is their persona, that is their individualism or individualistic behavior or trait or character, whatever you want to call it. Their dressing sense. So I don't think it's fair to say that you need to dress up in jeans and you need to dress up in t-shirt and you need to have bracelets and you need to have tattoos to come and be able to connect. That's not the right approach.
Okay.
Do what you want to do, but make sure that you're neat and clean.
Okay.
Make sure that you when you're talking, you have very the clarity is there in your articulation in terms of what you're trying to convey to the other individual. Make sure that your body posture is your body language, as we call it, right? That's positive. Your body language is positive. Make sure that you are confident about what you're talking about. Those things are very different. What I just talked about, those are not fashion.
Yeah.
Those are how do you carry yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
And you could be in a suit carrying yourself like that, or you could be in shorts and t-shirt carrying yourself like that.
Okay.
That doesn't. It's kind of. It doesn't change. So that's what I would like to say about that.
Okay. So what is your sum up of dealing with this different generation? What all changes you have noticed?
Yeah, and that's an interesting question. When you're working in a corporate, you're not just working with people. You're working with generations, and I've had the privilege of working with the boomers, the Gen X, the millennials, the Gen Zs, and now you have Gen Alphas who are getting up
Yeah.
to come into the workforce,
Right.
right? And it's like working with different playlists, right? Every generation, individuals from every generation are different, fundamentally different in the way they think, they act, they react. And so, for example, boomers and Gen X, these are the people that are like your straight laced people, right? They respect hierarchy. They are the ones who will come to work early in the morning. Email is like gospel for them, right? They follow directions. You tell them what needs to be done, they'll follow direction and get it done. You call them up, you send them an email at 10 p.m. at night, and they will act upon it and they'll respond to that email wondering why did you not call them, right? So that's the generation before us. Then millennials is my crowd, basically people that came in and has really transformed the business, have driven the innovation. We've brought the whys in the business. We just don't do the jobs. We want to know, you know, what is the reason we are doing what we are doing, right? And kind of even appreciating praises once in a while. And then you have these Gen Zs that are practically born with earpods in their ears and an exit ready with an exit strategy, right? Very short patience. They want promotion on day one and they want a break on day two, but they have a better understanding and grasp on the technology that is that is there. So it's about I've had the opportunity to learn from every individual, whether it's boomers, Gen X, millennials. It's a privilege to have worked with all of them. And the idea really is, how do you kind of interact with them? We talked a little while about being presentable, and you said that connects you to the Gen X's. No, that opens the door up a little bit, I would say, but that doesn't establish as a connection. It's like, the connection is when you interact, when you interact with an individual. And at the end of the day, it's all about kind of giving everybody the respect that they need. One size does not fit all. Ken Blanchard, I don't know if you've heard of him. He was one of this a long time ago, and his organization is still there. He's got a LNK learning organization that does a whole lot of corporate trainings and things like that.
Okay.
But Ken Blanchard had kind of devised this strategy or the way of dealing with people, and he calls it different strokes for different folks. What that really means is what what makes you tick is not necessarily what makes the person next to you tick.
Yeah, right.
So interacting with you in the same manner and interacting with that other person in the same manner is not the optimum approach. I have to align to what makes you tick in terms of the individual that you are, your aspirations and things like that. And that changes from each individual, whether you're boomer or X or millennial or Gen Zs. Second is giving them the respect, making sure that you are listening to their viewpoints. You're not kind of discarding their viewpoints in terms that doesn't align with my thought process, so I'm not going to listen to it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, as a leader, I want to listen to what everybody in the room has to say.
Okay.
Everybody has in the room, because everybody brings something to the table.
Yeah.
You know, the boomers would bring in storytelling, for example. The Gen X would probably bring strategy. The millennials would bring, the innovation and the new thought process. And Gen Zs would obviously bring the next gen, tech that is coming in, right? Even in the ways that you're interacting with them. Gen X, for example, would appreciate you picking up a phone and talking to them. Boomer, you maybe send them an email. Millennial, you maybe send them a WhatsApp message. So you have to be conscious in terms of how you are interacting with them, right? And that's really what it kind of boils down to. Don't treat everybody in the same manner.
Okay.
Understand and realize the differences that are there. And learn from them. The last thing is learn, right? And I talked about that a little bit, but like I said, everybody brings something to the table, and as a leader, it's my job to set that table up.
Okay.
Right? Bring the best that everybody has to offer in terms of their. And while we think that Gen Zs, a lot of people today say it's very difficult to work with Gen Zs, and they are prone to resigning quickly.
Right.
And
There are even
not saying-
articles coming the way they are WhatsApping that I am on leave. Full stop. They are
Yeah.
not even explaining
Yeah.
that why they are on leave.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, that's the way the world is moving out to, right? But I'll tell you this about Gen Zs. Once they get the hang of it, they kind of really can take your work, your organization to the next level. We have to understand that these are generational changes that are happening.
Yeah.
And we have to adapt these changes. So I think you says the only thing constant is change. Did I hear you say that?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I agree with that. The only constant in life is change. And you know what? By the way, Gen Alphas are coming in. My son is a Gen Alpha. He's still in school.
Okay.
But in another 5 to 8 years, I would say, they will be in the working force themselves. And these people don't want to work in corporate now. I mean,
Yeah.
at this age of 13, 14, they're thinking about how to do their business.
Freelancing, yeah.
Freelancing
Even, yeah.
and kind of looking at those ideas. So, we have to change with changing times, not interact with everybody in the same manner, appreciate the differences that each individual brings, learn from those people, because everybody has something to offer that can make you a better leader or a better individual, and respect everybody's opinion at the end of the day. And that's how I deal with these multitude of generations that I have worked with, and I find myself to be privileged to have had the opportunity to be able to work with all of these
Right, yeah.
different generations.
So
I think you should work like a lion.
Yeah.
Have you seen a lion?
Yeah.
A lion when it hunts. You will see a lion hunts in. So let's equate work to hunting. For them, hunting and getting food is equal to us going to office and putting food on our table, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it kind of boils down to the same thing. The lions work in spurts. It will hunt in spurt and then it will rest.
Yeah.
Then it will hunt in spurts. My advice to people is that you need to work smart. Rather than going out there and putting 16, 17, 18 hours, set 2-3 hours where you will be completely and fully focused on the work that you are doing.
Right.
And then take a break and take a rest.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 hour, 30 minutes, whatever that suits you, and do something different. Then again, come back for about 2 hours, 3 hours with full focus. And when I find myself doing that, I see I get a lot done in a very small amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like and that's what the generations are moving to. And you think about organizations, I think organizations have to reinvent themselves with changing times. That's an absolute necessity.
Yeah.
And those organizations that don't reinvent themselves with the changing times, they perish. They don't stay long,
Yeah.
right? So if you look at organizations that have been there for hundreds of years,
Yeah.
that's what they have done. They have reinvented themselves with changing times, and you will get example of that. I'll quote one example. When I went to US for the first time, we used to go to this. We wanted to watch movies and things like
Yeah.
that. So we used to go to this place called Blockbuster. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, I'm not sure.
Blockbuster was a brick and mortar building where initially when I was in US, it's an actual shop that you go into, and like a bookstore, it'd be a video store. So you will have genres: drama, comedy, international. Think about all the different genres
Yeah.
of the movie: action, thrillers, horror. All of those movies, video cassettes stacked up like books, and you kind of go through, you browse through what video cassettes you want. We used to have VCRs. I
Yeah.
used to have a TV come VCR,
Yeah,
two in
used to
one.
come, yeah.
I used to get that and kind of go and watch it. Then they kind of evolved themselves to DVDs. And then this new player entered the market in early 2000s. When in 98, 99 it started coming in, but in early 2000 internet really kind of became big,
Yeah.
in a sense that your e-retail started coming up, and you could kind of, before that it was only about emails and communication and things like that, but all of this e-retail and all of that online marketplace started to come up on internet, and a new player entered into the market, and that player's name was Netflix. It
Yeah.
entered in 2000.
Right.
Okay, and what Netflix was doing is it was renting movies through internet. So I could go into Netflix, create an account for myself, and then browse through the different movies that they have. And based on the subscription that I have, I would get the ability to choose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 DVDs. And they would mail those DVDs to me. And after I watched those DVDs, I would put them back into the same envelope and mail it back to them. And they would send me the next set of 3, 4, 5 DVDs that I have kind of on my wish list. What happened to Blockbuster? They went out of business.
Yeah.
They didn't want to change to the internet way of doing things. They said, no, we are going to stick to our brick and mortar shops.
Yeah.
I want people to come in and look and feel. They went belly up, bankrupt, because Netflix now gave the people this ability to be able to ordering movies right from the comfort of their homes.
Yes, right.
Look at Netflix now.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Right, they are now producing and pushing out content, like you can watch Netflix new movies, new things directly on the phone and subscription. And not only are they, you can watch movies of other producers. Netflix itself is now producing movies and putting
yeah,
it.
and in fact, some tele shows also which was stopped, and now Netflix only is producing those shows and showcasing on their channel.
What am I signifying? I'm saying that this is an example of an organization that has changed with times.
Yeah.
And you never know what they're gonna do when these Gen Alphas, and even I don't know what after Gen Alphas, those will be our kids.
Yeah.
But when they come into, you can only kind of sit and imagine. But I'm sure that these organizations have the foresight and the vision to know that we are going to, if we don't change with changing times,
It's
we're
gonna be
out of business.
a tough situation.
Yeah. No, look, the my advice to those managers would be focus on outcomes rather than focused on the way you get to those outcomes.
Yeah.
And I look at what is performance to me is two things. To me, performance is results. I also say performance is behavior. So performance for me is the sum total of results plus behavior. But I would focus more on, if an individual is working the way that I just described, I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I'm going to look at, we are in a field where we kind of look at productivity and quality
Yeah.
in absolute terms. In terms of, in HR specifically, it's very, very critical, right? I'll give you a good example of that. Is one of the work that we do in HR is answer employee queries coming into
Yes.
our teams, right? So queries about their compensation, queries about benefits, queries about policies, things like that. Some of these queries could be about payrolls. there is always a focus on elevating the experiences of those people that are sending queries in. So elevating the experiences of the employees. So then it becomes critical in terms of what is your turnaround time and responding to those queries, and what is the quality of response that you have provided. Now, it depends on the type of work also that you are doing. So if you're in that type of work, I don't think you can take a 1 hour break in between
Right.
and right.
Yeah, I do
So
agree.
you have to be smart in kind of differentiating. I'm talking about me who's not doing the transactional work, but somebody who's getting measured on work that is getting done hour by hour, because the queries will not stop within that
Yeah.
30 minutes 1 hour,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah.
But there's nobody to respond to those queries at the end of the day. Then so you have to think about, are you in the right type of work? Do you know, or not? Again, I'll go back to the same analogy that I gave before. One size doesn't fit all. I find myself to be privileged to, that I say I work like a lion, where I can work 3-4 hours straight, and then take a half hour, 45 minutes, relax, and then again work 2-3 hours,
Yeah.
you know, with focused intensity. But that doesn't mean that every individual is privileged to kind of do that,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Take a police officer's job, for example. That is like how you can imagine, like, if he's trying to kind of do that intensely and then
One
he kind of
hour
goes
of
off to
break.
sleep, or a chowkidar, for example, who's like guarding your house. In
Yeah.
that 8 hour shift, your security guard is working very hard for 4 hours, and then he takes a nap for 1 hour, and then you have thief that comes inside your house that one
The
hour.
house will be
So
with
it's
your
also the
dog.
nature of the work. You have to
Yeah.
be conscious of that, right? We have to be again conscious about the differences in the thought process, differences in opinions, presentation, the way each generation approaches work,
Yeah.
and it is incumbent upon leaders to be not dismissive straight off the bat.
Yeah.
And I told you, one of the things that is very important in leadership is look at and hear everybody's perspective. So if I was a leader in that instance, I would sit down and understand what is being presented to me,
Yeah.
whether it makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, then rather than outright rejecting, I would point out those things that I'm not able to see.
Yeah.
And maybe they are there, but I'm just not able to see.
Yeah.
But that happens through open dialogue and communication that is
Yeah.
happening, right? So, look, every problem can be solved at the end of the day. It's just the way that you approach.
Right. The way of convincing and telling others that how it can be done, that's
Correct.
like a good way to,
Correct.
instead of saying no to somebody, you can explain that what could be yes and no.
And I think with the Gen Zs, that is the biggest thing, right? I wouldn't
Yeah.
call it a problem, but that is the biggest thing in terms of their trait, is that you can't just tell Gen Zs what to do.
Yeah.
They also want to understand why you
Yeah.
want me to do this.
Yeah.
What will be the impact if I don't do it this way?
And I think
What
it's
will
in
be
a
the impact?
general, yeah, it's a good
yeah.
way. It's a good
I think it's a good way.
takeaway.
There's nothing wrong about it,
Yeah.
about that approach. So I call that a more smarter way of working, if you ask me. Right?
Yeah.
Questioning is important.
I have seen very lesser discussions about men's mental awareness.
Mental health, you mean?
Yes, right. It's about Women's Day, women's needs, women's holidays. So, what about men? That's what my question is.
Yeah.
I am not trying to be a feminist here or anti feminist, but I want people and society to understand that it's about give and take policy should be there of respect and understanding when it comes to men and women. So if we are celebrating Women's Day, and if we have the brands offering, Women's Day offers going on, what about Men's Day? Nobody is talking about it.
Well, we don't have to take it to that extent, but when we are talking about men's mental well-being and mental health at work, I think it's an important topic.
Yeah.
And you're right; it is not talked much about, primarily because there is this perception. The society has this perception that men are tear-proof, damage-proof, immune to drama.
Yeah.
They're much stronger than women. The reality is that that's not the case. I mean, mental well-being of men is equally important as women, right? I mean, they're constantly dealing with a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Pressure at work, competition at work, race to get forward, the burden of taking care of their family, somebody that people automatically think that, they always got it right. And a man may not break down in the same manner that a woman does in yelling, shouting, or whatever you may have, having a mental breakdown. It kind of transforms into silence, irritability, frustration. Those are the outcomes. Men and women kind of behave in a totally different manner when it comes to, coping with mental pressure or mental health, if I may say so. So it's a very important topic. I think we need to kind of be conscious. And why does this happen? This happens because of one. I think the society still rewards stoicism over vulnerability. So if a man says, "I'm not doing okay,"
Yeah.
and he says that to someone, that the other person doesn't know how to react. Men, one, they don't talk that often. You're not gonna see them be expressive as a woman would be. They tend to kind of keep things bottled up inside them. They don't talk about, because again, society equates mental health problems for men to weakness. That's just the general perception out there. The second reason is, that's what I'm getting to. The second point is this, so that means that men's health problems are truly invisible. They're not visible because they're not expressing, they're not talking about it. Men are not talking about it. Other people are not talking about it. So how do we solve for it? I think it is important that we take the cognizance of that fact that, look, mental health problem is not a man or a woman issue, it's a human issue.
Yeah.
Everybody gets stressed out. Everybody's got 10,000 things going in their heads, and everybody reacts in a different manner. So to take cognizance of that, to be able to kind of, it's okay to say, I'm not doing good. It's okay. And then if that individual, as a man, is saying that, then it's okay for the other individual to kind of lay the support that is needed, be the listening ear, understanding what that individual is going through, and just be there to support him. You don't have to do anything to help him or anything, but it's just a matter of, when somebody is listening to you and trying to understand, that goes a long way, in my opinion.
Right.
Just going out there and talking, picking up these cues that you're saying. If there's a change in behavior of an individual, you should be, as a leader or a peer or a colleague or a friend at work, you should be smart enough to understand and see that there is something different about this individual. And just having that, asking that question to that person, how are you doing? And asking that question with all honesty and not kind of making it up, but hey, really tell me, what is it going? How are you doing? How are things going with you? Let's talk. Let's go out for a tea, coffee, let's sit down and talk, right? Setting up peer groups where you can kind of, other men can kind of get in together and kind of talk about their problems. It's easier said than done, Richa. It's a men health problem. Is the reason it is not talked about, and it's not about Women's Day or Men's Day. It's much deeper than that, in my opinion.
Okay.
Right, so it's much deeper than that. I don't think any man cares about a Men's Day or a discount in the store. We are happy if our women get discount. That's less money
I
out
was
of
just
our.
trying to give the same equality of,
That's less money out of our pocket at the end of the day, right? We get Women Day discount. Well, that means that we are less stressed. That our wives have gone and girlfriends have gone and done the shopping. But the point is, it's not an easy thing to do. But that constant awareness out there, making sure that everybody is treated equally when it comes to mental health issues and challenges, and awareness that, look, men can be equally stressed. It's just that the men will not show that they are stressed. You won't find a man sitting out there and crying.
Yeah.
Why? Because not because he doesn't want to cry, but because how other people will perceive him. If he's crying. That's the problem. It's okay to cry. It's okay. You're a human being. You can be emotional. That's absolutely fine. That is something that we have to constantly set the expectation to, and that's not going to happen overnight. I say this right now, it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's something that it's like equated to like walking on a treadmill. You have to constantly, the moment you stop, you're going to fall off and get back to where you started again. So the mental health awareness is important for men, equally important as women. It's a silent killer in many cases. Stress is a silent killer. Men generally stress and don't talk about their stress until it comes out in forms of a heart attack, or in form of irritability, in form of frustration,
Or depression,
or
maybe.
depression. Maybe exactly all of those things are there, right? So that we have to provide that avenue when it comes to mental health
Yeah.
uh, issues for men, so that they know, yes, it's okay, and we are there to support you and make sure that you kind of get through this.
Yeah.
So that's important in my opinion,
Yeah.
right? And the good thing is that there's a new generation. It's kind of, we talked about generations, right,
Yeah.
a little while ago. I see that shift in mindset happening with the new generations coming in. They have their own ways of thinking, their own ways of understanding the world
Yeah.
and coping with the world. So I would be optimistic for the future
Yeah.
in terms of how these things are dealt with. And my advice to my peers, men out there, is that, look, if there is something that is bothering you, then talk to the person that you trust,
Yeah.
whether that be your partner, whether that be your friend, whether that be your colleague, whoever is that person that you can confide in, you can trust. Talk to them. Don't hold it.
Yeah.
You're not, you are not alone in this. There will always be people that will support you, that will help you, that will give you the guidance to get through
Yeah.
what you're going through, without any fear of judgment, because you talk to that individual that truly cares about you, they will
They'll
not
not
judge.
judge you, yeah.
There's one thing that I forgot to mention. As a leader, it is also important to show your own vulnerability to your teams,
Yeah.
right? Be your authentic self. As a leader, I'm not afraid to tell people that I'm bothered or worried about something, or, there's
Yeah.
something weighing on my mind. Being vulnerable is being human.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that is it. There is a stand-up comedian called Chris Rock, right? And he has this famous thing. I'll send it to you if you've not seen it already. There are now clips and memes that have come out from that. And he said, the only, and this kind of is a stark reality of what society thinks, right?
Yeah.
It's not true. I don't agree with it. But he says, the only people that are loved unconditionally are women, children, and dogs.
Yeah. Right.
Have you heard that?
No, I've not heard, but I have experienced this
Women,
fact.
yeah. The only people that are loved unconditionally are women, children, and dogs.
Yeah.
Men are loved with a condition that
Yeah.
they are going to be the providers.
Correct. Yeah, I have
The-
heard this line.
The moment they stop providing,
Yeah.
they are stopped being loved.
Loved. Yeah.
That's the way society thinks. Men are very much a part of that same society.
Yeah.
Chris Rock himself is a man, and
Yeah.
he thinks like that. So if he thinks like that, now tomorrow, say for example, if Chris Rock is about to lose his job, let's say he was not a stand-up comedian or whatever, is he gonna go out? He'll be stressed out, but is he gonna go out and kind of lay that stress on somebody else and open up about how they're feeling? Probably not. So I think that's what the problem is. The problem is just the way we are wired to think about this, the way we are wired to think men are stronger gender. In my personal opinion, women are much stronger than men, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Much stronger than men. Uh, what women can endure, I don't. So for a good example, a man cannot endure a childbirth.
Yeah.
I can tell you with my experience, if I don't think, if a miracle happens, let's say it's not a miracle, but let's say if something happens, I become pregnant, I can't give birth to that child.
Yeah.
Because the amount of pain that a woman goes through in doing this, like I was reading somewhere, so many bones breaking in your body at the
it
same
happens,
time, right?
yeah.
So that in itself tells me, the fact that you see your mother, your wife, you yourself, you said, I do all of my housework, and then I said, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I will not, and plus you work.
I
So you work, you do your house
run two
chores, then
ventures
you're doing.
and looking after a child as well.
So in my opinion, I'll give you many examples of the fact that women are actually are stronger than men when it comes to these things. But the society's perception is, no, men are stronger. No, men don't cry. No, men don't talk about their mental problems with anybody. You cope with your own problems. You can't lay it out on somebody else. That perception, that mindset has to change. It must change. And we can start that off by changing it with our children, We, as leaders, we can start off by changing that perception with our teams, by giving them that avenue to vent out, by talking to them, by being kind to them, and most importantly, showing to them that I'm your leader and I'm vulnerable,
Yeah.
and it is okay. Men and women are different fundamentally when it comes to that, in the way they operate, the way they think. So, treating mental health, for example, in the same manner is not right.
Okay.
Expecting men to come and talk, expecting that, hi, if there's a problem, they will tell us. If they're not telling us anything, they're silent, then there is no problem. That is a wrong approach.
Okay.
You need to kind of be a little bit more intentional in kind of trying to figure out what is wrong.
Right.
And those telltale signs are there. If you're working with an individual in your team every single day, you can see that there is something different about it. But you cannot be uncomfortable in going and asking your colleague and friend, hey, what's wrong? Why are you irritable today? Why are you talking like this today? What can I do to help you? What can I do to make you feel better? Tell
Yeah.
me what's going on.
Right.
It's okay to go and ask that question.
Yeah.
Physical, mental, spiritual.
Yes,
Those
yeah.
three things are primary. And I think we've covered multiple questions here, but I think if you kind of stitch them all together,
Yeah. Right.
I think it all kind of, to me, it makes sense. So thank you for inviting me and talking to you about all of these things, because you look at the question that the topic that we talked about in terms of work-life balance,
Yeah.
right? We talked about hobbies and why it is so important to pursue your hobbies, because it de-stresses you,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Uh, we talked about dealing with different people. At the end, it's all about communication, being able to establish that connect, that network, that human connect with people from different generation, understanding that every individual behaves, acts, thinks, reacts in a different way. I
Yeah.
talked about different strokes for different folks. One size doesn't fit all,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
We talked about, before that, we talked about being presentable, because that opens up the door to be able to establish that connect with individuals
Right.
and talk, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, all culminating down to, mental health.
Mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
So each of them looks like our stepping stone to it. So I think this is a congratulations. You've curated this
Thank you so much.
very well.
Yeah.
And I think this is an important topic that I think every person, whether they are already in the corporate world, uh, forget corporate, business, any area of life,
Yeah.
sports, whatever. I think this applies to everybody.
Yeah,
from
applies
that
to
point.
everyone. Yes. Thank you so much, Sumit, for all your wonderful, detailed explanation and all your time. And thank you so much for
My
coming.
pleasure. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
it's my first episode of this show, and it was great inviting you here, having conversation with you. So thank you so much.